the San Francisco 49ers have just accomplished what will certainly bring a sense of satisfaction. In this video, the focus shifts to the latest developments out of Santa Clara, and all signs suggest the news is promising. We'll also dive into several recent moves made by the team, so keep an eye out for those details. A formal list of pre-draft visits has been released, and while most of the positions aligned with expectations, there was one area that stood out: offensive tackles. That's where we'll start today. Later, we'll analyze some of the other moves the team has made, so stick around for that. When discussing the value the front office places on top 30 visits, it's often said that the best way to figure out which prospects the team is targeting is by looking at who they bring in. Last year, several athletes visited, including a primary target among the 2024 undrafted rookies. In 2023, the team brought in 5 of their 9 draft picks: Jair Brown, Cameron Latu, Darrell Luter Jr., Braden Willis, and Jalen Graham. They also worked out a kicker. The year before that, 5 of 9 picks also took pre-draft visits, including the top 4 selections. So, do the 49ers prefer to draft players they've hosted for top 30 visits? A more precise way to put it might be, do they prefer to draft players they truly want? The answer seems to be yes. While there are always exceptions, there are also plenty of consistent patterns. That's where we'll focus today. Let's talk offensive tackles. Out of all the lists and players I've reviewed, and alongside several reliable top 30 trackers, a piece of information has emerged that feels like the most official version available, unless the team clarifies further. The list includes offensive tackles who were invited, and what's interesting is that some of the names weren't present in any of those publicly tracked reports. The players mentioned are Kelvin Banks Jr., Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly, and Anthony Belton, 5 offensive tackles in total. Previously, most of the athletes brought in for these top 30 visits had already been discussed across trackers and social media posts. However, when it comes to offensive tackles, there have been some quieter moves around who the teams really brought in. Now that we know 5 offensive tackles are in the mix, and that number is expected to be confirmed soon, there are signs that 3 interior offensive linemen were also involved. This shows that a wide range of linemen are under consideration. That tells us something fans have been hoping to hear. The team is actively targeting the tackle position this offseason and is optimistic about landing a standout tackle in the draft, even if that means looking beyond the first round. While this might not be the deepest draft class for tackles, the team is willing to take a shot at strengthening a crucial position, and that's encouraging. This echoes the sentiments of those who constantly point out that whenever we talk about a defensive prospect, we also need to think about the other side of the trenches. There are valid concerns about the offensive line and the need to protect the quarterback. Every time we highlight a player, someone comments about the importance of improving the line to keep the quarterback upright. That feedback is completely justified. So, for those who share that view, I hope you're feeling optimistic about what's unfolding. This is where the team stands. Anytime we mention Brock Purdy, there's always someone saying, yes, but we need to protect him. And that's a fair point. I hope those fans are encouraged. The 49ers have gone above and beyond in addressing that. In fact, around 30% of the players they've shown interest in or brought in are offensive linemen. That puts us in an intriguing spot. I won't say we're way ahead, especially since the edge position has thinned out a bit, but that's not today's focus. The important takeaway is that the 49ers are clearly zeroing in on tackle help. They're preparing for life after Trent Williams. I don't believe they expect Colton McKivitz to regress. In fact, they're likely hoping he continues to play as well as he did last year. And I'm rooting for him too. He fixed a lot of the issues that plagued him the previous season. Of course, not everything got resolved, and I can't forget the Super Bowl until the Niners finally win one. Nobody forgets how that game played out. McKivitz wasn't the only reason for the loss. Far from it. But the 49ers are positioned to bounce back in 2024. At least we can acknowledge the growth, especially given all the offensive line injuries and the presence of rookie Dominic Pooney next to McKivitz, which may have played a role in his improved performance. All things considered, his step forward was a bright spot in a tough year. Just to put it into perspective, the number 11 pick is still a mystery, but the 49ers' actions seem consistent with a strategy focused on evaluating both lines of scrimmage. The offensive and defensive fronts are being assessed seriously, and each move points to careful consideration of Day 2 talent. The most interesting part of this list is that only a few players appear to be true candidates for the 11th overall pick. Most of them are projected between the 2nd and 4th rounds, exactly the type of players targeted on Day 2. These are prospects the Niners seem to be engaging with meaningfully, which makes perfect sense. If a player like Abdul Carter were still on the board at pick 11, he would be an obvious selection. For top-tier prospects, a pre-draft meeting isn't even necessary unless there are red flags around character, and that typically removes a player from high-end consideration. Now, if we shift to defensive tackles, most of the names on the list will be familiar. It's worth noting that 2 previously discussed names are missing, but let's not dwell on that for now. There are also 5 defensive ends in the mix, which aligns with what we've covered recently. I'll skip repeating those details. You don't need to hear the same content twice. Back to the interior offensive line. Marcus Baugh, Caleb Rogers, and Jonah Monheim are part of the group. I don't think we've touched on all 3 yet. As for linebackers, we missed Kane Medrano, which is my fault. That piece of info came to light after I had already planned the video and slipped through the cracks before publication. I don't think we covered all 3 of those offensive linemen, if memory serves. Regarding linebackers, we accidentally overlooked a key player, and I take full responsibility for that. The info came out after I had already prepped the video, but before publishing, and I simply didn't catch it in time. Now, looking at cornerbacks, the team is still evaluating 3 prospects, and that group's dynamics are pretty similar. Interestingly, there are also 3 tight ends currently being considered. One of them attended a top 30 visit and even spent time with a high-profile player, which adds a new layer to the story. Another top 30 visit was revealed late yesterday, and you might not have seen that yet, so I wanted to make sure you were in the loop. Let's now take a look at some of the recent moves the team has made. Their player meetings and face-to-face evaluations are vital, but there are more updates worth sharing. The team recently announced the signing of 2 undrafted free agents, both of whom have been bouncing around the league for a while. They signed restricted free agent tenders today. One of those players was added to the roster during a stretch when the offensive line was depleted around the holiday season and ended up playing in the final games. He's more of a depth piece, realistically a practice squad caliber player. Based on how I see the draft unfolding, I doubt he'll make it through training camp with the team. There's always a chance he surprises, but nothing we've seen so far suggests he'll turn into a real contributor. I don't think he's the solution to the team's current gaps, but I do believe the offensive line is in better shape now. Heading into the new season, this line is healthier and more stable than it was last year. This time of year is always special to me as we analyze new talent. The team is approaching that 90-man roster limit, and things are looking up. Compared to last season, the team's in a better place, especially considering player health and roster depth. This is the perfect moment to bring in fresh talent. Nearly every addition at this point is welcome, as long as the cost isn't too steep. One player, still on the team, has yet to record a catch in the NFL, which speaks volumes about their current standing. The team has met with several tight ends and has a history of drafting the position. It'll be interesting to see if this player can secure a role during training camp. If he sticks around, he'll probably make it on a 90-man squad. Otherwise, the team wouldn't have extended a restricted free agent offer. While he might make the team, it's still unclear if he'll become reliable. He could land on the practice squad, but there's also a good chance the 49ers draft a talented tight end, which could shift things. There are questions about a young, still developing prospect's readiness. Still, there's excitement about his ability to gain yards after the catch, which makes him a compelling option. The coaching staff continues working to develop talent, which explains their interest. This player has upside, and with a veteran tight end still in the mix for a few more seasons, there's no immediate pressure for him to produce. There is, however, a real opportunity here. While injuries and related concerns may come up, they're not the focus today. Another development worth noting is that a contract extension has been proposed to a key player. Negotiations are ongoing, and sources indicate that the latest offer isn't one the player's camp is likely to accept. No agreement is close, but both sides remain optimistic a deal will eventually be reached. There are two ways to interpret this. One view sees it as bad news, yet another round of endless negotiations. That's fair. But another way to look at it is as more active dialogue than in past off-seasons. And that's also true. In previous years, these negotiations dragged on for weeks, sometimes up to 5. Often, we wouldn't hear anything until midsummer or near the season start. The process took a long time. But this off-season feels different. Talks are moving faster. The tone of these interactions and how they've been reported to the media show more urgency. I've mentioned it before, but everything seems to have accelerated since the end of last season. The way negotiations were discussed, the information that came out even before the season ended, and the ownership meeting where one of the owners said the decision had already been made during the season. All of that shows there was more happening behind the scenes. Additionally, the situation involving a player right after the season ended suggested that this time around, things got moving early. Teams have been far more willing to share updates with the media earlier than in previous years. That leads me to believe a deal might happen sooner than usual. Maybe not before the first organized activity in April, but I think it could happen even earlier than that. That's just the sense I get right now. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Just when you thought the quarterback carousel had stopped spinning in the NFL, rumors have reignited a story that's been smoldering for years. Kirk Cousins to the San Francisco 49ers. According to multiple league insiders, the Niners are seriously evaluating the possibility of acquiring the veteran quarterback, who just 1 year ago inked a massive $180 million deal with the Atlanta Falcons. The idea might seem far-fetched on the surface, but within the walls of Levi's Stadium, the front office sees a potential solution to their ongoing quarterback dilemma in a 35-year-old signal caller from Michigan State. Cousins' history with 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan is no secret. The two were together in Washington during Cousins' formative years in the NFL, and Shanahan has long been rumored to have a soft spot for the cerebral, accurate passer. Despite the emergence of Brock Purdy in 2023, San Francisco's playoff shortcomings and concerns about long-term consistency have reignited conversations behind the scenes. With Cousins currently out of favor in Atlanta, benched after a turnover-laden stretch, and a league high in interceptions, the timing for a move has never been more plausible. From a statistical standpoint, Cousins still offers something few quarterbacks can match: high-volume production with impressive accuracy when protected. In his prime, he led both Washington and Minnesota to playoff appearances, earning Pro Bowl nods and setting franchise records. Even during a turbulent 2024 season with the Falcons, he threw for a franchise-best 509 yards in a single game and earned Offensive Player of the Week honors. But a dramatic fall from grace, culminating in being replaced by rookie Michael Penix Jr., has left Cousins in limbo. The Falcons' decision to draft Penix without informing Cousins or his agent only added tension, potentially paving the way for an off-season departure. The 49ers' current quarterback depth is built on potential rather than proven success. Purdy dazzled in stretches, but also showed limitations under playoff pressure. Sam Darnold is now gone, and the team hasn't made any splash moves at the position during free agency or early in draft prep. A trade for Cousins would be a bold, win-now move for a team that remains in its championship window, but has stumbled at the final hurdle too many times. Cousins' calm demeanor, mastery of the play-action game, and connection with Shanahan's offense make him an intriguing fit, perhaps the missing piece in a Super Bowl puzzle that's remained incomplete. Of course, there are hurdles. Cousins' contract is substantial, and San Francisco would likely need to negotiate financial terms with Atlanta or restructure the deal entirely. There's also the question of whether Cousins wants to play under a microscope again after his chaotic final stretch with the Falcons. But if the 49ers believe their roster is ready to win now, and if Shanahan truly sees Cousins as his guy, then perhaps the long-speculated reunion is finally within reach. One thing's certain, this story is far from over, and 49ers fans might soon be trading in their red and gold for a familiar number 8. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.